So this is video on post gear crash 120 miles an hour. I was at the end of a straightaway at a track up in Washington State and grabbed a little bit too much front brake, locked the front wheel, and I was riding. So, say this is a handlebar, riding, and initially the bike slid out from underneath me. So it was a low side crash, and I hit the ground like this, which you can sort of see there's a little bit of a scar right there where my glove did not meet my jacket. So here are my gloves. They don't kind of completely cover all the way up to my jacket, but most of my gear held up really quite impressively well. It's leather Cortec, and they have since, I think, upgraded these leather pants. But anyway, so there's some scuffs here and there, and part of the wear of this is just from, these are like 3 years old at this point. And so there's a lot of kind of scuffs in this hand part right here, which was from when I crashed. I initially was kind of facing up, so I was on my back, just ready to kind of slide to a stop. And unfortunately, with the one run that I did, I was a dum-dum and I didn't zip my pants to my jacket. And so my jacket kind of rode up on me. You can see there's a little bit of wear and tear here from that brief moment. And it scraped up my back, and it didn't take long for me to realize that is painful. So I used my glove, and I used this little slider right here to push off the ground so that I could flip on my back, so that I was sliding sort of head first down the straightaway. As I did that, well, from the initial kind of down, you can see my visor got a little bit scraped there. It actually popped off. I was able to find it later and reattach it. Although it broke the little hinge, which is why I had to buy a replacement one that was orange, which was cheaper, but you generally can't see it unless you're kind of looking directly at it. This is my helmet, by the way. I love this thing. It's expired at this point, but it still looks badass. I use it for go-karting and stuff. So anyway, I get on my back and I'm sliding head first, and then you can see a little bit of scrape on the sort of tailpiece, the spoiler of this helmet there, just from my head kind of leaning back a little bit too far. And so I am sliding forward at this point. This is my right glove. It's in pretty good shape. It's once again the same deal. A little bit of a scuff here from pushing myself over. The rest of the glove, by and large, in pretty much good shape. This part is a little bit scuffed up, but that's just kind of wear over time. My pants took the brunt of this beating. I wish I could say that the wear on these knee sliders was from me being a badass rider and touching my knee down, but that did not happen this track day. I'm not that great of a track rider. And so you can see all of this stuff is just from the initial low side impact where I hit the ground. So it's scuffed both ends, mostly on this side because, I went down this way, so it's the left side. And then down here, a little bit of scuff there. But by and large, these are actually still usable once I get this hole patched, because that is where a big portion of the sliding happened, and this split open. It didn't injure me at all. I didn't have any cuts here at all whatsoever. The only places were just kind of on my hand and a little spot on midway up my back on the left. It's probably only about like this big, maybe like 1 inch by not even completely 1 inch. And so this got all scuffed up, mainly here, but the rest of it is generally okay. And my jacket took a little bit of a beating too, but also this is still usable. And that's the nice thing about leather is you can crash at a really high speed, and as long as you don't actually physically hit something and you slide to a stop, your leather stuff is quite possibly going to still be usable, kind of depending on what surface you're sliding on and kind of what's going on. This was not like that before, actually. That I just noticed that. That's just this thing being super old at this point. So arms are a little bit scuffed up. I kind of wish I would have just put my elbows up and slid on these elbow sliders. Would have done a lot less damage to the jacket. But the front pretty much not damaged too much. It's really the backside that got decently scraped up. So little kind of tiny holes here and there, but by and large, I would be pretty confident going down on this thing. Probably 80 or so miles an hour or less. Anything more than that, I have no idea if this thing would hold up long enough to keep me from getting scratched up. But as you can see, generally speaking, it's really still not in that bad of shape considering the speed I was going. So I was probably going about 140 or so at the end of the straight before I hit a little bit of brake, slowed down, grabbed more brake, and then it was a little bit too much. So I don't know exactly how fast I was going, but I'm guessing I was going around 120. But if it wasn't much faster than that, it wasn't much slower. I'm pretty confident in my sort of margin of error there. But anyway, so that's everything else. The boots. Most of this wear is actually from just me riding. A little bit of this is from me kind of touching toe while riding. But all of this inside wear is just from me having these boots. These are built, I think, Sprint Racers. I got these for $50. What a freaking deal. This is mostly from track day, but once again, not entirely, actually. All of this ankle slider wear, though, is from that. But inside wear, none of that is from my crash. And I've been using these things, and I intend to continue to use them. They have been absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend Built for boots, but I would recommend Built for boots and gloves, not much else. Their helmets, can't say I'd recommend them. Jackets, can't say I'd recommend them. And I can't speak for their tracksuits. I don't know if those are kind of any good or not. But this helmet's actually a no-name helmet. I think it's an XP something or other. I'm not even sure if the company's still in business. But Snell-rated helmet, held up great. But then again, I didn't really hit my head. Not really, kind of a little bit, enough to pop the visor off there. But really nothing minor. I think I would have been fine if I even just had a regular DOT helmet, because it just was such a minor impact. And so I am actually still using all of this gear, and I would not use these again without getting them patched first, but I also have no intention of going to the track anytime soon until I save up a little bit more money and buy kind of a junker 600 that I don't mind crashing, because I know myself, and I can't take it easy at a track. I know I shouldn't have gone in the first place. I'm super competitive, and I'm going to push the limits at a track. I mean, to some small extent, that's kind of why you're there. I guess depending on the person, but for me, that's why I would go to a track. But anyway, that's all my gear. I would definitely recommend any and all of this stuff. These gloves are Sedici. They've held up fantastically, and like all of this stuff is like budget stuff. Like this Cortec jacket, I got it for $330. I think it's for sale for $360 right now. Biggest bang for buck for leather jackets. This thing's fantastic. Highly recommend Cortec and their stuff if you're looking for kind of bang for buck. But that's my gear post crash, and I'm still wearing all of it. Except for the helmet, which is expired. I have a new helmet that I motovlog with. But that's kind of what you can expect when you're wearing leathers. High-speed crash. So don't shy away from a track. If you're afraid of losing your skin, just put some leathers on. You more than likely going to be fine. Toodaloo!